Hey everybody, Sean here, and welcome into my Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 complete review. What you're about to see are all 10 episodes of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2, all the video reviews I had done over the past, couple of months or whatever since Season 2 I began, compiled into one gigantic video. So if you haven't seen them before, I'll just go ahead and leave them all in one place so you can check out the whole thing in one gigantic ass playlist. And then afterwards, once the episode 10 video finishes up, I'm going to go ahead and rank all the episodes afterwards, which I'll be basically doing that right here and I guess right now after hitting end here. So anyways, enjoy the video, and I'll see you all soon. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another edition to my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. It's been a long time since we covered this stuff. I'm super excited. We're going to be talking about Season 2. I had a really fun time covering the first season, and I'm really excited to be talking about this thing. I mean, this is like my passion. I love Godzilla, I love Kong, I love giant monsters. I'm a big fan of the Monsterverse. I've been there since the beginning of this thing. I was there for the development of it. I was there when I even did a 30-day marathon leading up to the release of Godzilla 2014, and if you would have told me, I don't know, when was that, 2013, 2014, when the Monsterverse was, before it was even called the Monsterverse, even that this is where the series would be at all this time later, I'd be like, no way, we're not going to get I mean, Apple TV wasn't even a thing when this thing started, and now look at it. We're in pretty good hands right now. As Godzilla fans, we're spoiled right now. We got this, and it feels like history's kind of repeating itself in its own interesting way, because not only do we have Season 2 of Monarch, but we also have the sequel to Godzilla -1, which, if you remember last time, when Monarch started, Godzilla -1 also was releasing, and then we had the New Empire after that. Now, history's repeating itself. We got another season of Monarch, another film in the -1 universe, and then the next Monsterverse movie coming out basically next year. So it's a great time to be a fan. So much like I did beforehand where I covered Season 1, basically what I'll be doing, I'll summarize what happens in the episode. Not every little detail, I'm sure. You can probably just watch the episode, and then, give my impressions on it overall as a whole. So let's start off. This episode is known as Cause and Effect. This one is directed by Lawrence Trilling and written by Chris Black, who was the showrunner for one of the showrunners for the series, I believe. So, yes, basically, Season 2, Episode 1. We'll start with the 50s stuff, because the 50s stuff was one of the big highlights of the previous season, and I'm hoping this season is an improvement over Season 1, now that we've kind of established kind of the characters and hopefully past a lot of that family melodrama that sometimes brought the show down in Season 1, I'll be honest. Now we can move forward in a more exciting fashion with monsters and seeing where the characters are at and such, so I'm looking forward to that. I really like the 50s stuff a lot. Any stuff with that was really good. The present day stuff, it was Kurt Russell really kind of stole the show, but when he wasn't on, sometimes some of the drama kind of brought it down a little bit, but I think we're in a good place right now, and also looking forward to a lot of the world building that's going to take place. So the episode, in terms of the flashback stuff, we see Lee, Keiko, and Shaw investigating a sea serpent in Santa Soledad in southern Chile. This takes place in 1957. We also do get a reference to Pulgasari, which I thought was kind of interesting. Billy was trying to find out its existence in Korea. We don't know if it's really there or not because he didn't find anything, but it still could be, which the idea of Pulgasari in the Monsterverse, given the crazy stuff around that Pulgasari film and all that, is kind of wild. So they go to this place, this little bar, and they see this town. Something's off about the place right when they kind of get there. They go inside this bar. They immediately see the scarab. Bill tries to take a photo of it, and everyone's just there to kind of fight him. Lee is just trying to hold him back, like, read the room, dude. And come on, Swab, you should be smarter than this, and all that stuff. I still like the dynamic between the three characters. I think they all work off each other so well. They're also a lot more likable than some of the stuff that we saw last season with kind of the modern trio, or the modern characters as well, minus Shaw, of course. I don't know, I just really like this trio, and I want to see more with them in it, and hopefully we get some good stuff with them this season. Anytime they show up, like, okay, this is a highlight for sure, but this stuff in the flashbacks is going to tie into the present with the scarabs and the mythical thing that we discover is going to later be Titan X. But anyway, so Bill gets asked to dance by this woman at the bar, and she gives him some information while they're kind of dancing. Lee and Keiko are kind of watching over it. She asks him about, like, if he's going to find his own sort of dance partner, and you can see in his eyes he's longing for being with Keiko, because last season we showcased that he loved her and he really kind of cared for her, and now she's with Bill Randa, and he kind of blew that chance that he had with her. And no matter who he's kind of with, he's always going to be thinking about her. But he's not going to be somebody who tries to jump in the middle of a relationship. And I do appreciate that aspect, because we see how it ended, right? We see how Keiko got dragged down beforehand at that one facility by those little endoswarm creatures. So he's not going to be somebody to kind of get in the middle of that, even though in his heart he still wants to be with her. But that's not the kind of guy he is, unless they try to do some dumb love triangle stuff where they're cheating on each other, which I don't want to see. We don't need that. Keep the cast likable in that regards. But anyways, we come to find out that the people in this village worship this giant monster, which at the end of the episode they go and find these little ancient like cave paintings or whatever, and they kind of worship it like a god. They consider the Titan their god of sorts, and it kind of ends there in terms of the flashback stuff. So I think we're going to find more about the scarabs. I think they're going to attack, and that's where Keiko's knowledge from the past is going to carry over into the present. So far, that's all we got with the stuff in the past. Really like the characters as well in that era, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do going forward the rest of the season. So anyways, on to the 2017 stuff. We pick up exactly where Season 1 left off, where Kong showed up at the very end, approaching the Apex base on Skull Island. And the episode kind of begins with Kong attacking everything on sight, destroying everything, which is awesome to see. I like to see a little Kong destruction on some human structures. We haven't really seen much of that since Kong Skull Island, in a way, where he fights the helicopters and all that. Yes, in Godzilla vs. Kong, he smashes one of the heat vehicles intentionally, where he crushes it in his hand. But we really haven't seen Kong actively destroying bases with kind of people around them. But we do kind of find out there is a bit of a reason when he sees some of the scarabs that we kind of saw in the past, and we also saw in the present, attacking things part of Titan X in some sort of way. We'll figure out more about that as the season kind of continues onward. But anyways, they end up evacuating from Skull Island to Monarch's Outpost 18, which is a giant ship located near the island. And we get a little bit of the fallout of the whole Access Monday thing, and we see that Keiko and May and / Korra and all that are kind of, or Kate as well, are kind of feeling the effects of coming to the surface from being in Access Monday, especially Keiko, because her body's been down there for so long. Hiroshi brings up a point where it's kind of like a sea diver surfacing a little too quickly. They just kind of have to take a little bit of time to readapt to the pressure in the surrounding world and such. So we got that going on there too. And plus, with Keiko being basically a character from the past, almost time traveling to the future, 60 years and all that, it'll be interesting to see how she adapts to the more modern world. She's doing the best she can, especially given the technology, but it's going to be a crazy period of sorts. So you just lost your husband, Bill, and Lee is kind of gone, and you lost so much time, and you lost all these years with your son having grown up basically without a mother too, and he's there for his mom, and just, yeah, if they would have known, they would have tried something, beforehand and try and get a hold of them too. So it'll be interesting to see how she kind of plays out over the course of the season as well. So I like too how Tim is talking to her and believes with Keiko coming back, she's exactly what Monarch needs and has been missing, and she could potentially be the one to return Monarch to what it used to be. So I think that's admirable too. I wonder what's going to go on between Tim and Keiko this season, because he definitely admires her and looks up to her and what she was able to achieve in that stuff too. And she's still a doctor. She, despite being from the past, and we've seen storylines where characters from the past come to the future, being a bit of a fish out of water, but she has interesting insight. She was there. She's seen what these scarab things can do. She's the one who actually discovers it on the video that they showcased there. And she knows all about these things, and her insights will be probably what maybe saves the day in a way. So while this is going on, we see where May is at. We also get some references to Walter Simmons, because Brenda from Apex still wants her to kind of join. Using her knowledge in that, she can kind of push Apex to the next level, and I think maybe her code and knowledge will probably be ultimately what helps to finalize the creation of Mechagodzilla. So since they reference Walter Simmons, you got Apex and all that as well, so that'll be kind of interesting. Kate's in not the best place right now. She just realized she lost 2 years with her father that Kentaro had, and there's still some unresolved tension, whereas Kentaro had all this time to kind of resolve this stuff with his dad, but they've been actively trying to rescue her from Access Monday the past couple of years. So not necessarily knowing about the time. Well, actually, they should know about the time thing too, because of Lee Shaw and how he was gone for all this time and all that other stuff too. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on between Kate and her father and all that this season as well. So I think the writing was a little bit stronger this time around too as well. So Kate can't leave Lee Shaw behind, so she basically gets Hiroshi, Kentaro, and May to kind of steal a boat from their little Outpost 18, sneak back to the island, Their plan is to kind of fire off the device that they use to kind of bring them out of Axis Monday to rescue Lee Shaw. So they go there, they end up on the island, and Skull Island, we get to see a lot of the cool looking wildlife. We get to see some mantle claws, we get some leaf wings. We even get the live action debut of the Psycho Vultures, which were first appearing in the comics. I believe it was Skull Island, The Birth of Kong was the first time we saw the Psycho Vultures. So it's cool to see them in live action. And even in Axis Monday, you see some of those little scarab things, and the Bramble Boar makes an appearance as well. Because Lee Shaw, we kind of find out, had survived what happened before. I know I was talking about at the end of season 1, I'm like, he can't kill off Lee Shaw. We didn't see a body, so I assumed he was alive. So I was right there. And, you know, Kurt Russell was such a highlight in the first season. Not having him, you'd really feel his loss. And basically this episode was about them trying to rescue him out of there, but they basically opened Pandora's box in a way. We also got some new creatures known as the Vine Rat during a sequence that felt very much like something you'd seen in a Jurassic Park movie. It's a much smaller looking monster, and it feels very much kind of like the Raptors. It's a scene where it kind of chases down Cora, I don't know, I'm just going to call her May at this point because that's what everyone does, and Kentaro, but he ends up killing it with some sort of little forklift thing, which I thought was kind of cool. It's good to have kind of smaller monsters as well to kind of have some different types of intense sequences. So it kind of made me think of the Raptors from Jurassic Park in a way. So they get there, they kind of fix the generator so they can enable enough power to launch the device and project the little portals into Axis Monday to bring back Shaw. There's a debate about firing the device. We also see Verdugo and Tim and Keiko flying some helicopters. There's even a funny joke where Tim is a little uneasy. He's like, I had a bad experience about me in a helicopter, which, as you remember, in season 1, Godzilla, when he emerged from the underground in Africa, knocked down the helicopter, and Tim was the only survivor there. So he has an uneasy feeling with helicopters, which makes total sense. So they get ready to launch the device, and it's starting to go off, and this is what wakes up Kong. But they're like, we can't push this button, don't do it. But then Kate ends up pushing the button because she wants Shaw back, which is great because, you know, you want Shaw back because he's the best character in the series, and, you know, it's the monkey's paw thing. So on the one hand, you get Kurt Russell, which, I mean, who doesn't want to have more Kurt Russell? But on the other hand, you kind of maybe doom the world with this whole Titan X thing. So Titan X comes in, ends up killing Verdugo, which did catch me off guard the first time I watched it. I was like, oh wow, they're actually going here too. I also do love Kong's reaction when he sees what they're doing, unleashing this device. He ends up smashing it, but he looks at them like, what the fuck did you all just do? So then the others kind of get off the island, they're flying their helicopters. Kong is kind of chasing after Titan X, which is heading into the ocean, and he's trying to stop it from doing so because he knows the problems that it'll cause, and Titan X manages to escape, and Kong just looks so angry and pissed off. He looks at the helicopter, and the episode ends with him kind of roaring right there, and thus leaving us on an interesting cliffhanger to see where Season 2, Episode 2 will go. So, good stuff overall this episode. I think the effects, especially for a TV show, look really good. This is movie quality stuff here, and I thought the human elements coming away pretty strong so far to start this thing off. It does, like, the melodrama doesn't feel kind of forced or annoying like some aspects in Season 1 were. I mean, like I said, I still really like Season 1, and I think it was a good start, but we could definitely make some improvements in some way. I think maybe just bringing Keiko in from the past, and things just kind of push along. They got more important things to kind of worry about, and yeah, it's pretty good, strong stuff so far. I think, too, Keiko's knowledge of the past and also Lee Shaw's as well, will be ultimately what's kind of utilized to try and stop Titan X. I think Titan X looks pretty cool so far. Very massive. The tentacles and like the little crystal things on its body and all that too, and from what I've showcased in the trailers, it has some sort of bioluminescence. So who knows exactly what's going to happen with Titan X in this thing. I've heard some things that it's going to be really emotional with its storyline, and I always like when you kind of add a real emotional feel to the monsters and creatures and all that. We've done that in the past with other monsters. I mean, Kong. Look at Kong's journey so far in the Monsterverse. Look how much emotion you can kind of get off this ape and all the stuff that he's gone through and the development in his own little hero's journey. So if you can do a lot of nonverbal visual storytelling with the monsters this season, which I think was the strongest aspect of the new Empire, then I'm all for that. But I do think overall, I think this is a pretty solid first episode. Some intense stakes. Titan X is unleashed. We got Shaw out of Axis Monday, so we don't necessarily have to go back there anytime soon. We got the flashback stuff, starting to lay a foundation for that. And we're going to have a lot of monster action. I think with the little scarab things attacking the boats and all that, and having some smaller monsters for the human characters kind of run from, rather than having to like something gigantic, you can have some more like claustrophobic, intense, kind of scary sequences as well too. So the character drama feels a little bit stronger. to start this thing off as well. You feel the tension and given some of the stuff that's went down in the past, but you also feel a bit of a ticking clock element with this new monster having just been unleashed as well too. So a lot of different moving pieces to start the season, but I think for a first episode, especially with like the production and scale and the epic stuff, we're off to a pretty good start right here. We're already like in the mix of it. We don't have to, we got the setup done. We're just thrown right into the mix of this crazy storyline that they're going to have this season, and I'm really excited to see how it unfolds, and I'm excited to just talk Monarch stuff for the next couple of months. So I really enjoyed covering season 1, and I'm having fun talking about season 2. So there you go. But yeah, so now we're officially back. What did you all think of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2, Episode 1? Did you think it was a really good start? Do you think, leaves a bit to be desired? But again, this is Episode 1 of the second season. They got to set up the storyline and everything. What do you want to see for the rest of the season? I'm pretty sure we're going to get a lot more monster action this season than we did in the first season, but that's just me. So yeah, good stuff overall. I'm excited, and welcome back, Monarch. Yeah, give me my MonsterVerse fix. I need it. I'm like an addict. So I'm keen to see how it's going to connect. I'm excited to see how it builds out the world a little bit more. And I wonder if they'll even connect to the Skull Island animated series as well. So that's still MonsterVerse canon, by the way. And, I've been covering the comic continuation of that. Maybe they'll find a way to kind of connect it all in some sort of capacity. So I feel like they kind of have to. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the episode. Also, I will mention Apple did post a video showcasing all the different monster sequences from episode 1 of season 2. So if you want to see that stuff, go ahead and check out the link in the description, which I'll place the video there. I'm kind of surprised they're dropping that right away, but then again, it's the first episode and they probably want to get people like talking about it and all that and sign up for the stuff, so who knows. But anyways, let me know what you thought of the episode 1. Where do you want to see this season go? What are some of your predictions? And yeah, we'll talk about it when it releases. But anyways, that's all I have to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out. What's going on, YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition of my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. In this video, we're going to be talking about Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2, Episode 2, known as Resonance. This one is directed by Lawrence Trilling and written by Dan Dworkin. So, much like I usually do with these Monarch videos, I'm going to recap what happens in the past stuff, and then talk about more the modern day kind of stuff. I mean, technically, it's the past in terms of the MonsterVerse if you go by continuity, but it's, the flashback stuff and then the more present day timeline stuff. So we're going to talk about that aspect with the show. So let's go ahead and summarize what happens. Overall, I will say that I did enjoy this episode. I may have a few things where I'm a little concerned at which direction it might go in, but there's also some really cool, fascinating things too. So, but basically, the episode in terms of the flashback stuff opens up with Bill Randa realizing that Titan X has a migration pattern and decides to go after it. Leah's all cool with this thing. Yeah, let's go ahead, let's leave. But Keiko is really against this thing. There's a bit of tension going on between the two of them, which tells me that the writers might try to force some sort of love triangle nonsense. Now, I'm recording this before I see episode 3, and I swear to God, if I see them cheating on one another, I'm going to be pissed. Why does everyone need to be a cheater in the show? It's something that kind of took away from the modern stuff, and I don't want to see it thrown into the stuff with the past, because I like the cast in the 50s is much more likable than the cast in the present day stuff. It's just the way it is. They just work more cohesively as units, and they're not going around behind each other's backs like we've seen in the present day stuff. I don't want to see that carry over. Not everyone needs to be a cheater on the show, and that's one thing I'm hoping against. I understand Lee has feelings for her, but come on, man. We don't need this. But anyway, so Lee and Keiko end up staying behind and end up getting caught in some sort of ceremony regarding Titan X. There's also something interesting going on between Keiko and Titan X, where Keiko is the only one able to hear it. Something that Kate shares later on in the present day stuff, and she seems to have some sort of connection to it. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Shobinjin, the Twin Fairies, and Mothra, but a bit of a darker version. We could see this whole ceremony play out, and it kind of makes me think back to Peter Jackson's King Kong with the crazy villagers and all that too. But anyway, so the villagers are there. The one lady from the previous episode who talked to Bill was like, I'm sorry about this, but our traditions must be kept a secret. And then they all go into hiding, and then that's when the scarabs all start coming out and start chasing after Keiko and Shaw before ultimately going into the ocean and joining Titan X, leaving them in kind of a state of panic. And we get to see Titan X in all its glory. Looks really cool, and that thus ends the 1950 stuff. So we go back into the 2017 version of the timeline, and the episode does open up with Kong roaring after Titan X escapes. We get to see a bit of a different angle for where the last episode ended. Lee makes his way to the rescue helicopter helicopter to Outpost 18. Kirk does have a few comedic moments here where he just is like, oh, great, Monarch. We're like, just my fucking luck. This guy can't really catch a break. We also get to see that really cool shot we saw of Titan X in the trailer where you see Titan X, you see a killer, or not a killer whale, but the blue whale swimming and Titan X kind of swimming over it. Just the sense of scale and everything looked really foreboding and kind of creepy. But so the crew in that made their way in the helicopter that escaped because, Verdugo had passed away, she was killed by Titan X, had made their way onto Outpost 18. But one of the scarabs from the rift came in and ended up on the ship. So that thing's going to cause some problems in a minute. With Deputy Verdugo now gone and dead, I should say, Tim becomes the next in the chain of command, and he kind of has a little trouble accepting that fact. And as everyone's trying to look to him for advice, going from this guy who was in the basement to being the leader of this operation is definitely something he wasn't really prepared to do at the time. But then Shaw comes in, starts questioning things and what everyone's doing, and why aren't they going after Titan X? There's a bit of a disagreement between the two of them where Tim's like, we gotta wait for orders, we gotta do this, but Shaw's like, no, we need action. But ultimately, Tim takes his idea to monitor Titan X. I do like the dynamic between Tim and Shaw. Despite everything Shaw has done, Tim does respect him, and you can see that Shaw's respect of Tim is kind of growing by the end of the episode, even going so far as Tim not telling Monarch, well, he was given Monarch orders to apprehend Shaw, but he's like, oh, it looks like these might have been kind of jumbled up and lost in translation as our signal's not really the best where it's at. So the group decides to go after Titan X to divert its attention from attacking people. Meanwhile, one of the scarabs attacks Kate on the ship, and when it gets hurt, it sends out a signal that alerts Titan X of its presence, indicating that there is some sort of symbiotic relationship between them and Titan X. Whether they're an offspring or not, I don't exactly know, or maybe they're a parasite that's the real kind of mastermind behind it. We've seen Titans controlled by kind of other, like, Titans and other things in this universe. I mean, look to Scar King where he had the crystal over Shinmo. Maybe the scarabs have something over Titan X. Could be something like that. I don't know. Oh, and Kate, much similar to her grandmother, Keiko, seems to have some sort of connection to Titan X, similar to what Keiko had in the past, where she's able to hear things that no one else is really able to hear. So I wonder what's going on with that. It's kind of interesting. So with Titan X chasing after them, Shaw decides to take the scarab and flees out in a separate boat, so that way it'll follow him in a scene that feels very much like a big homage to Godzilla -1, where Godzilla's chasing them on the little boat, and now we have Titan X chasing Shaw. And the sense of scale looks great. He nearly dies, but manages to save everyone in the process while we see the scarabs latching onto Titan X, thus ending the stuff that happens in the present-day 2017 timeline for the episode. So there you go. There's your basic recap of what happened in the episode. I think there was a lot of cool stuff overall. Shaw definitely gets his moments to shine. I like the stuff between him and Tim this episode, and also seeing Keiko trying to adjust to how much Monarch as a whole has changed is kind of interesting. The effects are once again pretty top tier looking. I think Titan X looks really cool, and you really do feel this massive sense of scale to it. The episode also left me very intrigued to see what will become of Titan X and its motivations as a whole. Is it truly evil? Is it the scarabs manipulating it? What's the connection it has with Kate and Keiko? Why can only they hear it? I wasn't really expecting a Mothra-like connection with this Titan, but this universe has established that people can have telepathic connections with each other and also with other Titans. So it does make sense that something like this could happen within the rules of this universe, however it works. But anyways, if I had any sort of concerns, it's with the flashback stuff. I am worried that the writers are going to try and push for this affair between Lee and Keiko. It just makes the characters more unlikable and creates some dumb, unnecessary drama. I don't mind character flaws, but I can't stand cheaters. Don't make this a thing. I'm fine with Lee still having feelings for Keiko and always caring for her, but having him cheat on his best friend would be rather douchey. So here is hoping that isn't the case, but other than that little concern I have, I quite enjoyed this episode. I thought there was a lot of cool action bits in there, not like big fight scenes or anything like that, but Shaw there, you get some crazy little sequences with the scarabs and all that too, and it's a little bit more of the world building and some mystery is kind of unfolding with Titan X and its connection to people and the scarabs and all that. So I thought that was pretty cool. So yes, I did enjoy this episode. Production value top tier, some nice homages to Godzilla -1, and a little bit more of Kurt Russell sprinkled in where he's interacting off people is always a bit of fun. So with that being said, what are all your thoughts on Monarch Season 2, Episode 2? Did you like this episode more or less than the last one? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications, all that fun stuff. I'm recording this before the new episode's supposed to drop at the time, Thursday? Yeah, so the new episode's supposed to drop tonight, so I want to get this recorded before the new episode drops. So I was a little bit behind, but I'm finally getting all caught up on things, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. But anyways, What did you think of it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. I got a lot of MonsterVerse videos on the way, and I'm trying to play catch up with a lot of other projects and all that. A little bit behind, but I'm feeling pretty good right now. So anyways, that's all I have to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another edition to my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. Alright, well, I have a lot to say about this episode, so let's get started by talking about it. I'll talk about the things that frustrated me and some of the things I liked, and as always, we'll start with the flashback stuff and then make our way into the more present stuff. So this is Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2, Episode 3, known as Secrets. It was directed by Hiromi Kamada and written by Kari Drake. So starting with the 1957 stuff, the episode begins with the continued attack from Titan X that we saw at the end of the previous episode on Lee and Keiko. We see the scarabs go into the water, and then they get right up into Titan X's face, and this seemingly calms it down as it changes its colors from red to blue. The bioluminescence that we see here is similar to that of Mothra. In fact, this is very similar to what we saw in Godzilla King of the Monsters when Emma Russell used the Orca device to calm Mothra down in that movie. We saw in that film that Mothra's bioluminescence changed from red to blue. Keiko then takes some pictures of it, and the two try to get out of there, but the villagers then confront them, asking for the photos of the Titan, as they're concerned about their village becoming exposed and their world changing and all that other stuff. One of them even pulls out a knife, but Lee fights him off, and then Lee and Keiko manage to run away. At one point, they are almost found out, but the one village girl who Billy danced with from the previous episodes sees them hiding, but doesn't say anything as she doesn't want them to end up getting killed. So anyways, Lee and Keiko then end up taking shelter in this one place, and, well, they do the one thing I didn't want to see them do, and we're given yet another goddamn affair as Lee and Keiko have sex with each other. This legit pissed me off the first time I saw it. Why do we need 3 generations of cheaters in the show? It makes the characters more unlikable and douchey, and it really brings the show down. After their affair, they do end up finding Billy, who admits he was wrong for leaving when he did, and I really feel for this guy. Imagine trusting your wife and best friend, and then they just fuck you over like this. That's really gotta suck. Soon afterwards, Keiko writes a letter to Lee saying what happened can't ever happen, as it would destroy Billy, which I guess given the context of the present stuff does end up being the case. After reading the letter, Lee doesn't take the news very well and starts drinking heavily. Then to end the stuff in the past for the episode, we jump ahead a few years to 1962, where the episode ends with Billy discovering the letter that Keiko wrote to Lee. We don't see him read it yet, but we know that letter is going to crush him and send him into this downward spiral where he goes from this to this, thus ending the stuff in 1957. Moving on to the stuff in 2017, the episode does kind of jump around a bit between all the different characters, so I'll kind of start with the beginning point here and then maybe kind of branch off into different portions. So the episode begins in the port of Tokyo, where we see Kate talking to May about going home, believing she doesn't belong, and that she's kind of had enough with everything, which you can kind of understand there. May tries to convince her to stay, but Kate thinks it's best she just goes home to her mom and dad. So understandable, she goes off and then goes on her own little adventure. Meanwhile, back at Outpost 18, Hiroshi, Keiko, Shaw, Kentaro, and Tim are trying to figure out how best to deal with this Titan without causing a public panic. After seeing how it responded to the sound emitted by the scarabs, Hiroshi believes in using this prototype Titan phono source that he has back at his office to lure the Titan away. It's the same thing we saw in Season 1, where they had the little Titan phone, but a much more smaller, condensed version of it. And this device would end up being kind of the basis for something else that we'll see later on in the MonsterVerse in terms of the timeline, or something we've already kind of seen if you watch Godzilla vs. Kong. Think of it like the Orca from Godzilla King of the Monsters, but slightly different and much larger and not as condensed. So anyways, it's at this point where Apex, led by a guy named Jason Tricep, begins to take over operation of Outpost 18 after Monarch had lost track of it. Now, because of this, Tim gets into an argument with a guy named Director Barris, who told him to follow Apex's lead for now, as they were giving Monarch access to all this advanced tech, and he was also given orders to hand over Keiko and Shaw without delay. However, Tim has Hiroshi, Kentaro, Shaw, and Keiko go into Tokyo to find the Titan foam he built, and try to use it to keep Titan X at bay. Meanwhile, May and Tim have a talk with one another where he asks her to become his inside mole for Apex, as he's a little bit concerned with them potentially starting another G-Day. Kate also returns home at this point to her mom, and she's with that guy that she was with last season. Kate then goes to a club to get drunk and party as a means to coping for unleashing Titan X and all the shit she's been through since the last season, losing all this time and all that other crazy stuff. Even when there's a Titan alert going on, she just doesn't seem to care at this point. She then gets told off by somebody like, hey, you need to go get some help, and then she just kind of lashes out. This then leads her to go to the memorial of where it all went wrong in the first place, from the bus incident in season 1. It's actually a pretty effective scene. All the self-hatred and guilt she feels and the trauma she experiences all comes into the forefront, and she just breaks down crying. I thought, Anna Sawai's acting there and the music and everything, the way it's all kind of handled there, I thought that was actually pretty well done. Meanwhile, May ends up taking Brenda's offer to work for Apex, offering them the code she created. While working there, we do get a bunch of Easter eggs under some of Apex's project archives. We see the Castle Bravo stuff from 1954, the Skull Island stuff from 1973. We also get a James Conrad Easter egg. That's Tom Hiddleston's character from Kong Skull Island that talks about something that happened in London in 1979. I do wonder if this will get explored at some point, and if James Conrad will indeed appear at some point in this season, or hopefully in the Lee Shaw spinoff show. I think it would be really cool to see Tom Hiddleston return back to the Monsterverse. I mean, he's a great actor, and having him in anything is always kind of a plus. The next thing we do see is this Red Monarch USSR thing set in 1984. Now, this is definitely going to be explored in the upcoming Lee Shaw spin-off show. We don't know too much about it other than set in the 1980s and it's Lee going behind enemy lines and Red Monarch and all that. It's got to be this. This is what it's going to lead to. So, little Easter eggs for things they want to explore later on. So, that's something that Eagle Eye fans such as myself get excited about. But anyways, I'm really excited for that. I think it should be pretty cool. Then we see something about Mothra in New York in 2001. I have no clue what this is about, but it does seem to establish that another Mothra is out there somewhere. Maybe it's the one from the New Empire, or perhaps it's something else entirely. There's also a reference to Aaron Brooks and his mission to Skull Island back in 2012. Now, this is the storyline from the Skull Island Birth of Kong comics, so it is cool we're finally seeing some of the comics lore incorporated into live action. Then finally, a reference to Outpost 32 in Antarctica, which is of course where Ghidorah is at. It's also during the scene where May discovers that Apex has been secretly following them, only to go ahead and steal Hiroshi's Titan foam, which now that I think about it looks pretty similar to the device used with Mechagodzilla as showcased in Godzilla vs. Kong. Then lastly, while looking in Hiroshi's office, Keiko finds out that he actually has two families, and the two of them end up talking about it later, where he tells her like what happened with him and how he was in love with two people, which mirrors that of Keiko's stuff with Bill and Shaw. We also learned from Hiroshi that when he was a kid, Bill had sent him to live somewhere else and just straight up kind of abandoned him when he was 11. Now, keep in mind, he lost his uncle, lost his mom, and then now the guy was kind of taking care of him until he found out about that letter. Now, we haven't seen his reaction to the letter, and that's basically what's going to send him in that downward spiral. It's pretty obvious at this point, but she's going to come to realize that, oh my God, he found the letter, and now because of this, all this craziness just kind of like, it just went to a huge downward spiral for everybody, all because of this affair. So yeah, a lot of wild, crazy stuff, plenty of drama in there. And yeah, that's basically the recap of what happened in this episode in terms of the 2017 stuff and the 1950s stuff, and also a little bit of the 1960s. Okay, so when it does come to this episode, some of the story choices really pissed me off. If you looked at my last two Monarch videos, I talked about the one thing I didn't want to see was an affair between Keiko and Lee Shaw. So of course the writers went ahead and wrote this in. Having 3 generations of Randas all be cheaters, I think is pretty stupid. It's dumb melodrama that makes everyone seem unlikable, and really does work towards bringing the show down. The only one who isn't a cheater is Kentaro, but knowing these writers will probably make him one too. Look, I'm not against characters having flaws, but making so many of them cheaters is just pushing it. I feel like someone in that writer's room had to be involved with, or at the receiving end of some sort of affair in their life, and is working out their issues on screen. Now, with that being said, I softened on the episode a bit after watching it a second time. There is some good stuff in here from a dramatic standpoint. I think it also helped a lot in terms of the world building and giving some clues as to what's to come for the rest of the series and the upcoming spin-off show. This episode also features the least amount of monster action. We only really get that brief glimpse of Titan X and the flashback stuff, and it still looks pretty cool. Also, seeing that it has bioluminescence that goes from hostile to calming, similar to that of Mothra's, indicates that it might not be as hostile as we think it is. Even with me not liking some of the story choices, I thought the performances were still pretty good all around, and I'm really liking the stuff with Tim so far this season, seeing how he went from this guy in the basement to taking a more active approach to things. You can see him learning to stand up for himself more and begin to take action, even going against orders, in order to do what he feels is right. With all that being said, though, this is still the weakest episode for me. Some good parts for sure, but I hated that story choice to have yet another affair on the show, especially with the more likable characters of Keiko and Shaw and what they did to Bill. So with that being said, what did you all think of this episode? Do you have some frustrations like I did, or did the whole affair thing not bother you at all like it did me? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, subscribe for more Monsterverse content, share this video with your friends, and all that other fun stuff. So I'll be back again next time with more Monarch Legacy of Monsters videos. And as always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out. What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition to my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 4, known as Trespass. This one is directed by Hiromi Kamada and written by Al Letson. So, yeah, the last video in terms of my Monarch stuff was pretty much like a month ago, and I am very behind on these things. So at the time of recording this, I've already seen up through Episode 8. So I'm going to be going through all these episodes, quickly summarize kind of what happens, give a few thoughts on them, and then get to Episode 8, be all caught up on that one, hopefully by the time Episode 9 airs. So, I mean, I gotta edit these things together, so we'll see. These may release slightly after Episode 9, but I'm informing you that I'm recording this up to the fact that I've seen Episode 8. So I'm going to go through these on an individual basis, give my thoughts, kind of recap things similar to what we've done in the past, and then go on from there. So a lot of stuff kind of happened personally and a few other things, and it kind of has made videos take a little bit longer than before. But I am trying to play a little bit of catch up. I know I have to get through these things, so let's talk about it. It's going to be a very fun day recording all these back to back to back, but anyways, so the episode opens up in 1962. This is the flashback stuff. There's only a little bit this episode. It's mostly kind of the present day 2017 things. So it opens up in 1962 with Billy going over his notes. We see that he's taking things a little bit hard after losing his wife, his best friend, and finding about the affair via the letters. So there's that going on there. We also see the final scene he has with Hiroshi as a child, where he kind of sends him off to live with Keiko's family. This is also where he begins his journey around the world, searching for the migratory patterns of Titan X, also known as Kokai, all the way up to his death on Skull Island, and his notes get kind of sealed off. Then in 2015, his notes are discovered by Apex Cybernetics, thus ending the stuff set in the past this episode. So not much there, so let's get to the present. So in terms of the opening of the 2017 stuff, the episode opens up with some dudes surfing. Even though this spot was blocked off by the military and Monarch, they get a warning only for them to be attacked by the Scarabs, and this Monarch boat ends up getting destroyed by Titan X. Very much reminded me of when the Kraken destroys the boats in Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest, even with the tentacles coming down, although not as slow and dramatic, much faster in that too. So afterwards, Kate wakes up after being drunk the night before on this beach in San Francisco with so many missed calls from her dad. Kate also runs into one of the parents of the kids who was on the bus, one of the survivors who was actually thankful for what Kate did. Even though Kate has felt guilt over everything and survivor's guilt and that, this was a moment that I think kind of changed her a little bit, and having somebody there to kind of thank her for being alive was something that she kind of needed to make the change and get ready to go back and help everyone and rejoin the group. Meanwhile, Tim is still at the outpost with the Apex guy Trisup, and while using the Apex tech, it shows that Titan X is headed towards San Francisco, only for it to be revealed later on that it was a whale and that Monarch was conned from Apex and all that too. So some shady stuff going on with Apex. Elsewhere, we see Lee, Hiroshi, and Kentaro. Mei and Keiko decide to enact their plan to break into Apex's facilities to find Hiroshi's device and use that as a means to divert the Titan away from the coast. I did enjoy Kurt pretending to be drunk in this episode. Felt like he was kind of channeling his inner Jack Burton. They end up breaking into Apex and find that they've been smuggling all sorts of creatures off Skull Island, including the leaf wings, these things called the Needle Walkers, which are very much raptor-like inspired from Jurassic Park in a way, and also these creatures known as Vine Stranglers that have appeared, I think, in a few other things beforehand, Monsterverse related. They do eventually find where Hiroshi's device is at, but it's broken apart. But they do find Billy's notes on the complete migratory path of Titan X, and revealing that Apex knows where it's headed next. It is also during this time period May finds out from Brenda what Apex is really up to. We learned that they have these neural implant devices that are being used to keep the other creatures docile, while, and that it was May's code that made it possible. So she decides to stay and work with Brenda while the others reunite with Kate and get ready to head back to where they first saw Titan X in Santa Soldad. And then the episode ends with Hiroshi finding Keiko's letter to Lee, where it was revealed that she had an affair with him, thus ending the episode on that sort of cliffhanger. So that was episode 4, and I did like it a little bit more than episode 3. Most of it was a bit of a heist episode, and that was kind of fun. We learned a little bit more about some of Apex's plans, which is the neural implant sort of thing, which I think was utilized in the Godzilla Kong Titan Chasers game. So it's nice to see that kind of carried over into the official MonsterVerse canon with the shows, because the games are more like soft canon and kind of their own alternate things. So Kurt was definitely having a little bit of fun this episode. We got to see a few of the new creatures. Yeah, some of the affair stuff is at the end, and that melodrama kind of brings the show down a bit, but it's been a few weeks since this aired, and I've mostly gotten over that, even though I was pretty upset when that was revealed in episode 3, because I'm so tired of there being so many damn cheaters on this show, especially now that I'm on to episode 8 and seeing what happens up to that point. But overall, it was still a pretty fun episode. Not the best this season, at least up to what I've seen so far, but still pretty good overall. So with that being said, what did you all think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, all this MonsterVerse stuff I got coming up, and yeah, as always, take care now, bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out. What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition to my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 5, known as Furusato, directed by Jeff F. King and written by Andrew Colville. So if you hadn't seen my previous video or these next several that are going to be uploaded, I was pretty much a month behind on these Monarch videos, had a lot of reasons for that. So I'm just going to be kind of powering through episodes 4 through 7, kind of a little bit faster. I don't really have speculations added to the end of those episodes per se, since I've already seen up to episode 8 like I did through the first 3 videos. So we're going to get through these rather quickly, and then hopefully I'll be all caught up in time for episode 9 airing this upcoming week. At the time of recording these things, I'm actually recording these on Sunday, April 19th, so I got to get these all edited and out this week, and maybe I'll do a video today or something. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I just want to hopefully get all caught up in time for the new season, or the new episode. There's only 2 episodes left at the time of recording this. But anyway, so we'll start this thing off with some flashback stuff. Now, we don't flashback to the 1950s. We actually go to the 1990s, where Hiroshi, we open the episode up with Hiroshi. He's calling Kate on the phone, and they sing a song that was used in the War of the Gargantulas, which is my favorite non-Godzilla Toho kaiju film. The one they're singing when they're in the forest when Gaira shows up and kind of scares people. But I thought that was a cool little Easter egg, and it comes back later on in the episode. Anyways, so he has to cut the call short as Kentaro is being born, and he gave him the name Kentaro after Hiroshi's biological father. So there's that stuff set in the flashback, but it's important to note because of the song that was used in there, it gets carried on into the end of this episode. So back at the 2017 stuff, after finding out about the letter, Hiroshi is pretty pissed off at Keiko because he figures this letter is what led to Billy abandoning him as a child. Hiroshi then has a conversation with Lee about the letter before they head to Santa Soldad. They also discover a Monarch outpost where they find one of Hiroshi's drawings as a kid, indicating that he didn't try to just straight up abandon him. He was still kind of carrying him on while he was going around the world trying to figure this stuff out and hopefully find a means to kind of save people. But it's also in this moment where Keiko and Hiroshi have a moment of reconciliation of sorts and coming to terms with their own mistakes in the past. Hiroshi ends up finding some peace knowing that Billy hadn't abandoned him for him. He wasn't the reason he kind of left. There's other stuff kind of going on there. We also see during this episode that Tim has a talk with Director Barris about Titan X, saying that Apex is lying to them and that they need to head to Santa Soldad, which is proven correct. Brenda and May then set up camp in Apex in Santa Soldad, where it's revealed that they will launch another neural implant device into the Titan so that way they can keep it docile and control it utilizing May's code. Shaw believes that Apex wants to weaponize the Titans and that they need to be stopped, even confronting May about it, who has a bit of tension with the rest of the group. They end up launching the device just as Titan X arrives. However, when it does, Kate ends up in a bit of a hypnotic trance of sorts with it. I always enjoy when we get these types of quieter moments between humans and Titans. Hiroshi tries to stop Kate from going just as Apex hits it with the device, which causes the Titan to go a bit crazy, and Kate is nearly killed but is saved by Hiroshi. However, in saving Kate's life, he ends up dying in the process as Keiko and Kate sing the song Hiroshi saying at the very beginning of the episode. The acting overall is pretty good in the scene from everyone involved. If Hiroshi was portrayed as being a little more likable as a character throughout the series, then I'd probably feel a little bit more emotional about his death. Still, though, I do think this is a better episode than the previous one. The acting is solid from the cast, the effects look really solid, you get to see Tim start to grow a little bit more as a leader, and we get a bit more stuff with Titan X that was pretty interesting regarding its connection with Kate. Plus, while I wasn't a big fan of Hiroshi as a character throughout the series, I do think his death was pretty well handled for the most part. So with that being said, what did you all think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more MonsterVerse content as I continue to play catch up with the show. Share this video with friends, all the other fun stuff, and as always, take care now, bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out. What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition to my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews, and in this video we're going to be talking about Episode 6, known as Requiem, directed by Jeff F. King, and written by Maria Melnick, I think that's how I pronounce it. But yes, in case you didn't see my previous two videos, I was very behind on some Monarch stuff, so I am currently playing catch-up with the series. So I had Episode 4, 5, and now we're on to 6. I'm recording these all back to back to back to back, and then I'll also be recording Episode 8 as well, as I play catch up with Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Last video was a little bit quick because I didn't have like as much to kind of recap of what happens. Granted, we did see the death of Hiroshi Randa, so that was a pretty big moment in the series. But yeah, so we'll do what we normally do: recap the past stuff and recap the stuff in the present day. So the flashback stuff opens up in 1958. Bill and Keiko get some additional funding after showcasing their photos of Titan X. There's a bit of an awkwardness between Shaw and Keiko. He arrives and kind of toasts with them. He then reveals that he was reassigned to work with Monarch under Puckett's team. Well, maybe not necessarily Monarch, just under Puckett's team in general. Shaw then goes and meets with his father. So this is the first time we've seen Leland Lafayette Shaw the second, and he has a drink with him that turns into a few more, where he reveals that he had gotten a little too personal, so he had to transfer to kind of take himself out of the equation. He also feels a little bit guilt over the affair stuff that had happened beforehand. Like he got a little too involved when he really shouldn't have. So the next day, after some breakfast with his father, his dad reveals that he had Lee transferred to work with him in Vietnam, saying that he wanted the best for him. Shaw's father makes sure to say to him regards to what Lee's been doing with the Titans. In the end, the one thing that matters, who wins, which we'll bring up later on. Lee also has a bit of a crash out over this whole thing and decides to just go back to Monarch if they'll have him. Lee realizes that he needs Monarch in his life, and he agrees to put his feelings aside and be professional, believing the work Monarch is doing is far more important than his own personal squabble. So good stuff in the flashback stuff. It was nice to see a little bit of Lee's father in there too, and kind of see how Lee's almost kind of turning into him by the end of this episode in some sort of way. But yeah, pretty good stuff overall. Then in the 2017 stuff, the episode opens up on Skull Island before the rescue mission of the group from Access Monday at the end of Season 1, before Kate and them were rescued and all that. Kong is walking around, just sort of chilling. The effects look really great here. I mean, Kong looks great on screen right here. It's pretty in line with the quality of the movies. While walking around, Kong notices Kentaro, who's watching him as he's drawing him, and they have a moment where they kind of look at each other. Kentaro smiles, and Kong just kind of roars and scares him off, which I thought was pretty funny. After this, Kentaro also has a talk with his father, who reveals to him that he was also in Access Money for a day, maybe two. He had gone to Alaska to test this theory in 2014, but he instead emerged in Africa in 2015 instead, which was a pretty interesting reveal. After this, we cut to Hiroshi's funeral, where Dr. Suzuki from Season 1, the Suzuki device, returns and reunites with Shaw and Keiko. I noticed that Kentaro's mom was there, but not Kate's mom. It makes me wonder if there was a funeral back home stateside, or she just didn't want to show up, which, you know, I get she's upset at him for what he did, but I feel like she'd still show up for the funeral. That's just me, but it would have also been cool to see the two moms of, like, Kate and Kentaro, like, meet each other at some point. The ones who were kind of screwed over in this thing. Or maybe they met during the divorce proceedings. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see maybe if they ever follow that up on that. But that's one thing I did kind of want to see. It was just, hey, you were cheated on too. Let's be friends, or we'll be enemies. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But anyways, Kentaro is angry and lashes out at everyone over the threat of Titans. Shaw then leaves his little pocket knife that we saw all the way back in Season 1 before he went down to the Hourglass mission, and says that he's going to find a way to make things right. And then they go off and have dinner at Suzuki's. So Suzuki explains to the group that time dilation is the reason that Project Hourglass went so wrong in the first place, which caused him to be blacklisted from Monarch. He also reveals that Hiroshi had gone to see him to build a new Titan phone. Shaw then talks with him in private, saying he wants to destroy the Titan that killed Hiroshi. He knows he can't do this, but he believes Godzilla can and wants to use a device to lure Godzilla to target Titan X and destroy it for good. This causes some tension between Shaw and Keiko plus Cade. Shaw also says something about how it's us versus them, and in the end, the only thing that matters is who wins. The same thing his father told him in the past, so he's kind of turning into his father in a way. A guy who, he cared for, but there's still some resentment there based on what we've seen in the past. So with Lee and Suzuki leaving to test out their device on Axis Mundi, Keiko and Kate decide to have their own experiment by testing out her connection to Titan X, believing that the Titan is now lost and needs some sort of help getting back on track. Meanwhile, Mei and Kentaro go out to have some drinks together. Kentaro is having some issues, and then she goes up and leaves. However, things don't all seem so bad when we're introduced to Walter Simmons' other really hot daughter, Isabel, played by Amber Midthunder, who seems to have a proposition for him. Kentaro also has a dream sequence of Godzilla attacking Japan alongside Titan X. It's actually the first time we see Godzilla in the MonsterVerse attacking Japan, but it's a dream sequence because having him actually attack Japan would completely break canon established in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Now, while it's cool to finally see Godzilla after several episodes into the season, the dream sequence was a little too quick for my liking. Plus, if you're going to have a dream sequence that's supposed to be all doom and gloom, I just wish they went a little bit crazier with it. Have it look post-apocalyptic. That would have been much cooler. Anyways, after this dream, Kentaro calls Isabel and agrees to meet with her regarding her offer. After this, Lee and Suzuki activate his Titan Lure device at one of the portals where Shaw had emerged out in the 1980s, but in doing so, the episode then ends with the craziest reveal of all, where Lee gets a signal from his younger self, which will get followed up in the next episode in a really cool way. Episode 6 was another pretty solid one. It was nice to see Suzuki back and learn a little bit more about Shaw in the past this time, and see how in some ways he is turning to his father a little bit. We got a little bit of Kong, which is cool, and some Godzilla, although technically not released considering it was a dream, which is a little disappointing. But don't worry, he finally does show up for real in episode 8. In terms of the ending, it does lend to my favorite stuff this season, which we will talk about in the next episode. So with that being said, what did you all think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like and subscribe for more MonsterVerse content as I continue to play catch up with the show. Share this video with your friends, and as always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out. What's going on YouTube? JT here, and welcome back to another edition to my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 7, known as String Theory. This one is directed by Ganya Montiero. I don't know how I'm pronouncing that. I'm probably fucking that up pretty badly. And written by Joe Pekoski. And this one is going to be interesting because there aren't necessarily like the flashback stuff, because the past directly interacts with the present time. Well, in its own kind of sort of way because of the time dilation and stuff with Axis Mundi. But yes, in case you didn't see the previous videos I'm uploading, I'm playing a little bit of catch up on some Monarch stuff. But this is episode 7, and then after this, I'd already seen episode 8 at the time recording this thing. But yeah, I'll get to episode 8 after that one, which is the most recent one at the time recording. So let's go ahead and get through this one rather quickly and talk about what happens. But yes, this is probably my favorite episode of the season so far, given the emotional stuff going on. And you know what? Let's just go ahead and talk about it. So the episode opens up with the fallout of Operation Hourglass with a young Lee Shaw trapped in Axis Mundi. We see him trying to make contact and see the toll it's being taken on him by being stuck in Axis Mundi like this. He soon is able to get a signal out, and due to how time is bending in Axis Mundi, the young Lee Shaw is able to directly communicate with his older self. This was a really cool reveal and leaves the door open for so many possibilities going forward. It's basically adding time travel in a way to the MonsterVerse. Who knows what could happen if they go back and try to change things, but I do have a feeling we may get to see Kurt and Wyatt share the screen together at some point this season, but for right now, it's strictly over radio. Anyway, so Lee has to communicate with his younger self to put a tracker on Titan X, but during their time communicating, the young Lee starts to get suspicious about who he's really talking to when he realizes it's his older self, and his whole world starts to come crashing down. He also finds a camp down there belonging to Keiko, and that's when he learns the truth that Keiko is actually alive. And in my favorite scene in this whole entire episode, and the whole entire season so far, the older Lee has to convince his younger self not to save her just yet. The young Lee is tempted tempted to go to her now and change things after seeing her from a distance, but he soon has to make one of the most difficult decisions anyone could ever make. He knows he can't make the selfish choice. Even though he loves her and he could save her now, he knows it's not right and there could be some severe consequences if he does so. He has to let her go so that way she can be saved later on. It's a real emotional gut punch of a scene. Both Kurt and Wyatt are exceptional in it, and I'll admit, I got a little choked up watching it the first time. Eventually, Lee does find where to place the tracker, and we even get a brief cameo from the Ion Dragon and an Endopede, which is kind of cool. Shaw puts the tracker in Titan X, and then the older Lee reminds him he's a good man, and they both say their final goodbyes to one another, and the younger Shaw tells them to keep an eye out on Hiroshi's kids, which was really cool stuff right there. Also, during this episode, Kentaro decides to go and meet with Isabel Simmons. He even has a bit of tension going on with May. Kentaro does start to act like a little bit of a jerk this episode, which kind of carries over into the next one as well. After this, May ends up being taken back to the Monarch outpost while Kentaro goes to visit Isabel, who tells Kentaro about her hatred for Apex and how she wants to change the world. We also learn that she was adopted and kind of sidelined for her sister Maya. She tells Kentaro that there's a reason his father told him that there's some secrets about where he really was when he went to Access Monday. Also, one thing that does confuse me is that she specifically mentions it's been 4 years since G-Day, which is odd considering it's 2017. Wouldn't that make it 3 years? I don't know. Even as episode 8, we still don't know her full plan just yet. Perhaps she intends to use Access Money to go back in time and completely undo the events of G-Day, but we still don't fully know if that could change things. It gets tricky when you start to deal with time travel. Unless Access Money is a completely separate dimension from everything and you physically can't go back and change things. Tough to say, but we'll see, I suppose. Meanwhile, at the Monarch outpost, May learns that Brenda had kept her name out of the mission files, I guess to protect her and to keep her from receiving any blame for what happened. In terms of the Kate and Keiko stuff, they head to the shrine from Billy's notes and investigate why some women were able to hear Titan X's cries, only to discover that the caves simply amplify the song, and they then realize that the Titan just needs some help getting back home. After this, the final section of the episode involves the older Shaw saying he has to go on this next mission himself and has to use the Titan lure to have Godzilla fight Titan X. He even says the line, "Goodbye, old friend," which is a line with significance in the Monsterverse because that's the same line Dr. Serizawa says in Godzilla King of the Monsters when he had to sacrifice himself to save Godzilla, which is still my favorite scene in the entire Monsterverse as of right now. It's just, God, it's such a great scene. He then says his goodbye to Suzuki, and the episode ends with Titan X making landfall in Australia. This is probably my favorite episode of the season so far, and the funny thing is that there wasn't much in terms of monster action either, and it all has to do with the strength of the human drama this time around, and especially the performances of both Kurt and Wyatt. That scene where he has to let Keiko go is such an emotional gut punch, and it was done just so well all around that it really helped to elevate this one for me. Anyways, that should be it in terms of the episodes I'm catching up on. Next video will be my thoughts on episode 8. So with that being said, what did you all think of this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for more Monsterverse content. Share this video with your friends. And as always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out. What's going on YouTube? JT here, and welcome back to another edition of my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 8, known as Separate Ways, directed by Ganya Monteiro, written by Mariko Tamaki. So I'm finally all caught up with this stuff now in terms of like the most recent episodes. So we're recording this before Episode 9 airs, so let's see what happens then. But anyway, so the episode begins with Shaw headed to Australia, where Titan X is located, as the Titan begins burrowing in the sand with the scarab surrounding it, and he gets ready to launch the Titan lure device he had from Suzuki. After firing off his device, Shaw's signal then reaches Godzilla, who opens up his eyes and begins to make his way towards Titan X's location. Not sure if he's in his little lair from Godzilla King of the Monsters, or just a spot he wanted to kind of rest and chill at the bottom of the ocean while absorbing some sort of radiation energy to get stronger. Keep in mind, Godzilla just hears the signal. He doesn't necessarily know it's Titan X. Meanwhile, Director Barris learns that they're going to drop a nuke and kill this Titan, or at least attempt to. After this, Kate and Keiko meet with Tim at Monarch Outpost, where they talk to the director about how Shaw plans to bring in Godzilla to fight Titan X. They ask to be given a short window to see if they can try to get the Titan back on course and avoid having to drop some nukes and risk causing more problems. There's a ticking clock element to this episode, as they only have a small window between when Godzilla arrives, as well as them dropping a nuke on the Titan. May also meets with Kentaro and finds about him meeting with Isabel Simmons. Kentaro ends up up going to shore with Keiko and Kate with different means of dealing with Titan X. May not trusting the Simmons, goes and meets with Brenda to talk, but isn't given much in the way of information. She does tell May to kind of let this thing go. Soon the others arrive to meet with Shaw. Keiko and Shaw disagree over their methods of dealing with the Titans, while Kate goes to Titan X given their connection, and we learn that the Titan is pregnant with an egg and is just trying to give birth and go back home. So it's not really all that evil like some of the other monster antagonists we've seen within the Monsterverse, like a Scar King or a Ghidorah. Upon seeing the Titan, Kentaro tells Isabel that there's an egg, and then her team arrives, led by Tricep, who was working with Apex beforehand, but seems to have other forms of allegiance, unless he disbanded after the operation in Santa Soldad, but I guess we won't find out because the moment we've all been waiting for happens as Godzilla makes his grand arrival to fight Titan X. Now, keep in mind, Godzilla is responding to the device, and Titan X is just trying to defend her egg and doesn't really want to fight per se. I love Godzilla's tails whip in the scene. That looked pretty awesome. During the fight, Isabel's team ends up taking Titan X's egg away, at which point Godzilla ends up firing his atomic breath and killing Tricep, which is pretty cool. Kate is angry at Kentaro for going along with this thing, and the episode ends with Titan X in pursuit of the egg while Godzilla is in pursuit of Titan X. Alright, so now I'm finally back to being caught up with the show, so I don't know what's going to happen in episode 9 as of right now, but what I can say is that I did enjoy this episode for the most part. Probably because we finally got to see Godzilla for real this time, and as always, the King of the Monsters is pretty awesome whenever he is on screen. The effects look pretty impressive for the most part, especially for a TV show. I especially loved the moment, I brought this up earlier, when Godzilla uses the tail whip during the fight against Titan X. It reminded me when he used that move in Godzilla 2014 to kill one of the Mutos. Yeah, the fight is still pretty short, but given that the episode ends with Godzilla chasing after Titan X, I can assume that it will pick up in the next episode. I do wonder what the end goal of Isabel is in this thing, though. I have a feeling she was probably lying to Kentaro about a few things. She says she doesn't like Apex, and yet she was working with Tricep before he was killed. Maybe she's going to take the egg with her back to Skull Island and drop it one of those Axis Mundi rifts and have the Titans try to kill each other there, perhaps. Brett isn't saying anything, so it must be pretty sinister. I do know they are going to be headed back to Skull Island in the next episode, which does have me pretty excited. I have a strong feeling that we are probably going to have some sort of potential Godzilla, Kong, and Titan X face-off in the next episode on Skull Island, which would be amazing to see because we never really got to see Godzilla show up on Skull Island before in any of the movies. In terms of the character stuff this episode, I do like the stuff with Lee and Keiko and how they see things a little bit differently in terms of their methods of trying to deal with the Titans. There's also the added tension between Kate and Kentaro and how to deal with these things. Kate wants to try and save this Titan and, just send it back home. Kentaro wants revenge over the death of his father and just wants to kind of wipe Titan X out from the map. It creates a bit of an interesting conflict with the group going into the final episodes, and I can't wait to see how it all unfolds. Things are starting to pick up a little bit more and get kind of fun, especially with the arrival of Godzilla and the chase elements, and we only have 2 episodes left. It's got to be a pretty awesome climax, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I've heard some rumors that they're going to do some really crazy stuff, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see. But anyways, I think I'm going to wrap it up for this video today. What did you all think of the episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more Monsterverse content, share this video with your friends, and as always, take care now, bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out. What's going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and welcome back to another edition to my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 9, known as The Ends of the Earth, directed by Lawrence Trilling and written by Tanner Hansinger. So, yes, only one more episode left after this one. I'm pretty excited, but let's go ahead and get started within the flashback stuff, and then we'll get started final thoughts, and then right before the finale airs this week. So I'm pretty excited about that. Got the other videos done out there. Hard to believe we're already at the end of this whole 10-week journey with Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2. It's been a fun time, but it's time to wrap things up. So with that being said, let's do what we normally do, get to the flashback stuff, and then get to the present day stuff, and then, give some final thoughts and all that. But anyways, here we go. So the flashback stuff begins all the way back in 1958. We see Keiko and Bill marry in a ceremony in the territory of Papua New Guinea. Feels kind of spur of the moment, a little bit casual. They don't have any rings, but are all in on getting married. Also, since this was 1958, this would have been after her one-night stand with Lee, so at least she didn't cheat when she was married, I suppose. During the ceremony, Keiko has a lot of vows for Billy, but but he didn't really have any words other than yes, since he wasn't fully prepared at the time. Keep that in mind for later on. So they end up kissing, and then they end up getting married afterwards. So yay, congratulations on getting married. After that, we go ahead and jump into the year of 1959. Jumping ahead right after the whole Kazakhstan thing, we see Shaw and Billy in the aftermath of the situation where they thought they lost Keiko with her supposed death that we saw in season 1. Billy feels extreme guilt over what happened, but also believes based on the data that she could still be down there, while Shaw remains skeptical and is angry at Bill and Keiko for not listening to him in the first place, saying that this death is going to haunt them for the rest of their lives. Which is true, it does haunt them for the rest of their lives, at least Billy's. But Lee, he did find her eventually, so good on him, I suppose, but oh, poor Billy. After that, we go ahead and cut to 1968 to finish off the flashback stuff, where Bill is teaching a course on rift theories and a network around the globe where he gets a visit from Dr. Suzuki. He's starting to look a little bit more rough at this point, although I'm not sure how he goes from this to looking like John Goodman in 5 years, but I guess we all just kind of have to roll with it. At this point, he still hasn't gone back to be with Hiroshi, and we learn that the real reason he's hesitant to go back is because he thinks Keiko is still out there and that their work isn't fully done yet. This is something that Suzuki scolds him for doing, saying that he will lose the family he still has left, chasing the one he lost, thus ending the flashback stuff in this episode. Jumping ahead to 2017, the episode begins with Godzilla in pursuit of Titan X towards Skull Island, with Monarch also following them. Apex also denies being part of Isabel Simmons' group. At one point, when almost on the island, Titan X stops to speak with Godzilla, at which point he doesn't attack her anymore. Instead, we learn that he was just herding her back to where she needed to be and doesn't kill her. He lets out one final roar and goes back on his merry way. This feels more in line with his characteristics pre-Godzilla vs. Kong, although, not going to lie, I am a little bummed Godzilla didn't go to Skull Island. I feel like this was a bit of a missed opportunity to see, seeing how Godzilla never appeared on Skull Island in any of the MonsterVerse movies, but even though he doesn't, I actually like his characterization here, and prefer it over him being just a rage-fueled asshole like we saw in the Wingard films. Anyways, so Titan X makes its way to Skull Island in search of its egg, while Tim, Maine, Keiko, and Shaw also go to shore. On Skull Island, we see that Kate and Kentaro were taken by Isabel to their little base, and we learn that the egg was used as bait, with Isabel's main goal being to use Titan X to open a rift and go into Access Monday as a means to travel to the future, believing there could be a solution to the whole Titan-solving problem. Kate disagrees with the whole thing, and so they try to take her off the island, but she escapes to warn the others. Isabel has other plans too, including having Titan X kill Kong, so that way he won't interfere with their plans. But given that Titan X isn't the super evil Titan, they have to sedate it and then use the neural implant devices that we saw earlier on the season, which actually does seem to work this time around. They also keep Kong busy throughout this episode by using skullcrawler sounds to keep him distracted, basically rage baiting him the whole time, which is kind of funny. I mean, Kong this whole season has just been rage baited, and he just looks like angry and pissed off like the whole time, which I do kind of enjoy a little bit. Meanwhile, Tim, May, Shaw, and Keiko are then attacked by these vine stranglers and get split apart. Keiko and Shaw go looking for the rift, while Tim and May end up looking for Kate and Kentaro. While searching the island, Shaw and Keiko do end up in the graveyard where Bill was killed during the events of Kong Skull Island at the hands of the Skullcrawlers. They even find his old camera, and Keiko gets a little emotional. I am surprised there actually were no Skullcrawlers there to attack them, but I guess with Kong growing taller and stronger, he probably wiped out the majority of them at this point and basically neutralized the threat for the most part. Either that, or Apex took them off the island like we would later see in Godzilla vs. Kong. So while searching the island more, they do end up finding various probes that Bill Randa had sent into the rifts over the years from various parts all over the world. One of these even was mentioning like Loch Ness and all these other places. Keiko ends up opening one of the probes, which reveals Bill's wedding vows that he never got to say from earlier. It's a well done and emotional scene, and completely recontextualizes everything that happened in Kong Skull Island and adds some new layers to the movie, showing that his primary driving force behind everything was finding his wife and why he was so adamant about going to Skull Island. It's a good conclusion to his story, and also sad that he was this close to proving his theories correctly. Such a tragedy. R.I.P. Billy. While this is going on, Tim and May manage to get in contact with Kate, who tells them about Isabel before Kate goes and confronts her brother, who reveals to her that with Access Monday, they can go back in time and save their father from dying, thus ending the episode and setting the stage for the big showdown between Kong and Titan X. This is another really solid episode. There's a lot of stuff I like going on. I like the conclusion to Billy's storyline and how it adds new layers to Kong Skull Island. Tim really steps up as a leader this episode, which is also good. The effects look really solid all around, and it's cool seeing both Godzilla and Kong in this episode. Although given this seems to be Godzilla's final appearance this season, it does leave me wishing we could have actually seen him set foot on Skull Skull Island at least once in the Monsterverse before they went ahead and basically just destroyed the island in Godzilla vs. Kong. But who knows? Maybe he will surprise us this next episode. I hope so, but I kind of doubt it. Speaking of the island, if I did have some complaints, I do feel like Skull Island seems a bit emptier compared to what we saw in Kong Skull Island. Now, there are threats on the island for sure. We saw the Vine Stranglers attack, but it doesn't feel quite as lively as it used to. Perhaps it is because of all the human intervention. I mean, we saw Apex taking creatures off the island, so there's definitely stuff going on there. And maybe it's Kong wiping out most of the threats, but I would like to see a little bit more. For instance, what are the Iwi up to while all this is going on? I guess we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens in the season finale. I am very excited to see how they end it all and find out what sort of crazy reveals they have that we're going to get this season. I have a few ideas of where they might go with it. I think we'll probably end up back in Access Monday, where we might see Hiroshi or both Lee Shaw interacting and having a scene together. I just feel like it's got to be something big that they're withholding from us, but only time will tell. Although one thing I feel that is a certainty is that Isabel is more than likely going to become Titan Chow, or at least squashed by Titan X probably, but we'll see. Anyways, what do you think of the episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, subscribe for more MonsterVerse content, share this video with your friends, and as always, take care now, bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video as we conclude Season 2 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Peace out, everyone. What's going on, everybody? Sean here, and welcome back to another edition to my Monarch Legacy of Monsters reviews. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 10, Where We Belong, directed by Lawrence Trilling, with a teleplay by Joe Pekoski, and story by Andrew Colville. Well, this is it, the Season 2 finale, and what an ending. This is easily the best episode of the season, and probably the best episode of the series. Some of my predictions were true, but there's also some areas where it genuinely surprised me. Plus, the way the season ended was on a very exciting final review, which I can't wait to talk about and see what they have planned next in regards to the way the show ends. So with that being said, let's recap the episode like I normally do and go into my final thoughts on this episode and the season overall in general. So the episode opens up with Lee and Keiko being chased by these creatures known as Stampede Caterpillars. They even take shelter in one of the crashed helicopters from Kong Skull Island. A nice little Easter egg. I did appreciate seeing some of the new creatures, and this also helps with my previous complaint with the last episode about how empty Skull Island had seemed compared to beforehand. Anyways, after avoiding the creatures, they discover the helicopter that was making the skullcrawler sounds that had rage-baited Kong, and they decide to follow it. Along the way, Keiko mentions how she made a recording of Titan X communicating to Kate, while Lee also tells her the truth about how he was able to communicate to his younger self. This leads to one of my favorite moments in the episode, where Keiko gets angry at him for not making the selfish choice in saving her early. She brings up how things could have been a bit different and that she could have been there for her son, but Lee's response is that there's a lot of couldas, and he made the choice knowing that he would save her in the end. He made the guaranteed safe option, because like you said, there's a lot of couldas. I like how well composed Lee is in this situation, even with her anger directed towards him. I think deep down she knows that he made the right choice, but given how much she has lost, it hurts regardless. After this, Lee and Keiko soon catch up with Tim and May's group, who had commandeered some vehicles from Isabel's team. Also, I want to point out that Tim had mentioned there being an incident in the 90s about a failed Monarch operation involving skull crawlers and some sunscreen. Not sure what this is regarding, maybe a loose connection to Skull Island, The Birth of Kong, or the Skull Island anime perhaps. I'm not exactly sure. Could be just a simple gag. Anyway, so if the group's reunited, the plan is for Shaw to take the recording Keiko made and use it to lure Titan X to the rift after taking the helicopter that was being used to make the skullcrawler sounds from earlier, while the others go to try and rescue Kate and Kentaro and stop the whole synaptic link thing on Titan X. Speaking of those two, Kentaro has Kate locked up when she disagrees with his plan to go into Access Monday to save their father. I should also point out that Isabel mentions being afraid of her father finding out about what they're doing with Monarch after them. Kentaro even pushes the synaptic link to its limits, making Titan X way more aggressive for its fight with Kong. Kate then manages to escape the room she was being held in, only to end up in the worst spot possible, right in front of Titan X, who has been affected by what Isabel's team is doing. From here, we finally get the big showdown between Kong and Titan X. The fight sequence is pretty exciting, with both Titans feeling pretty evenly matched. There's a nice showcasing of their various fighting moves, and there's an added tension of Keiko trying to rescue Kate in the middle of the fight, which is pretty exciting too. There's even a small blink and you'll miss moment where Kong saves Kate and Keiko from being crushed, showing how even during the fight he is still there to look out for everyone. Eventually the synaptic link is disrupted once Titan X manages to find her egg, which calms her down, proving how strong her will is as a mother. She even shows it to Kong, who immediately understands hands and lets her walk free. I really did Kong's characterization here. He understands she was just defending her egg and realizes she's not truly a malevolent titan. Plus, if you want to go a little deeper, maybe Kong remembers what happens to his parents back in the day as they fought to the death to protect him from the Skullcrawlers and doesn't want to see another creature experience the loss that he did. After the fight, Kate goes after Kentaro, who decides to leave with Isabel, as Kate goes with the others to try and help lead Titan X to the rift after his brain was kind of messed up from the whole thing with Isabel's team and what it had done to her. Given Kate's close connection with Titan X, they do manage to lead her back to the rift. Then in one of my favorite moments, Kate and Titan X share a quiet moment together where Kate reaches out and touches her. Titan X shows appreciation towards Kate for helping her find her way back home. It's a warm and tender moment, and I feel like this is also the moment where Kate as a character is finally able to move on from her past guilt and trauma and embrace being part of Monarch. I love it when the Monsterverse gives us these type of moments between humans and Titans. There's something beautiful about it. I also need to mention the music in this scene. I don't think I brought it up in the season so far, but the score by Leopold Ross has been excellent, and it really helps to enhance a lot of the emotional moments this season. So after Titan X goes home, we finally get the scene I had predicted in the last video, where we finally get to see Kurt and Wyatt share the screen together. The younger Lee Shaw sees his older self in the rift, and although they can't hear each other, they do see one another, and Keiko actually gets to say goodbye to the younger Lee. It's a beautiful goodbye, and they each get that much needed closure, so that way they can finally start to heal and move on. We also get to see Kong let out one last triumphant roar before we jump ahead 6 weeks later to see that Kate and Keiko have now fully become a part of Monarch as part of the team alongside May and Tim under Director Barris, with the task of tracking down Isabel and Kentaro and keeping knowledge of Access Monday under wraps, which would explain why it hasn't been brought up in the Monsterverse stuff beforehand. Then after this, the season ends with Lee Shaw tracking down Kentaro and Isabel on his own. He makes his way to Thailand, and in the best surprise this season, we get the return of Rodan, who Lee says, "I'll see you soon," thus ending the episode and the season in general. I was super happy to see Rodan make a return to the Monsterverse. I honestly didn't expect it, but it was a very welcome surprise, especially since it has been 7 years since Rodan last appeared in the series, not counting stock footage used during the Godzilla vs. Kong opening credits. I'm not sure if this is the same Rodan from King of the Monsters or perhaps another one like how there were two in the original film, since Rodan in King of the Monsters was supposed to be lying dormant this whole time. I guess we'll find out another point in time. Either way, it was an awesome way to end the season. Monarch does a really great job when it comes to their season finales. Just like in the first season, the best episode of season 2 was indeed the final episode. It had great action, was paced well, music was excellent, and it managed to pull on the heartstrings when it needed to. I do think that season 2 was an overall improvement over season 1. Sure, not every aspect was amazing, and I have a few questions, such as where in the hell were the Iwi this season? They just never even referenced on the island. I mean, shouldn't they be there or something? But there was definitely a lot to love this season for sure. There's a lot more monster action this time around, and I felt the character work was a bit stronger. Titan X, or Kokai, made for a great addition to the Monsterverse, a misunderstood monster with a unique connection to Kate. I hope to see her return one day, either in the films or another season of the show. Could make for a good heroic ally for the other monsters. In terms of the characters that stood out this season, Lee Shaw was once again the MVP. Even though I still wasn't a fan of the whole cheating angle, both Kurt and Wyatt once again do an excellent job portraying him, and I'm very excited for that upcoming Lee Shaw spin-off show. Lee Shaw still remains the best human character within the Monsterverse. Tim was also a standout for me this season. He really began to step up as a leader and could be funny without being annoying. He strikes that right balance. Some of the other characters did improve this season. May, who was one of the weaker aspects last season, was a lot more likable this time around. Kate also improved as a character too, with her emotional connection to Titan X being what helped anchor the season. Keiko was once again really solid, and it was neat seeing her interact with both the stuff in the past and in the present. Billy was good too, and I think this season also helped to recontextualize a lot of Kong Skull Island and helped me to see that movie in a new light. Hiroshi was also a little better this season, given he had more screen time, but I didn't really shed any tears over the guy when he died. Then finally there was Kentaro, who just became more and more unlikable as the season went on. I guess now that he's working with Isabel, we'll have to wait and see what they do with his character for the next season, assuming there is one, which I think there will be. But they need to do a lot of work with him if they expect me to start caring what happens to him more. Also, I like the characterization we saw of both Godzilla and Kong this season a lot too. One thing I think this season did very well was the world building aspect and introducing new concepts into the Monsterverse. With Access Monday acting as a potential time machine of sorts, that could lead to some really interesting story possibilities going forward in terms of the overall Monsterverse. Maybe they'll even find a way to bring back certain characters from the past. The possibilities are endless. So let's talk about the potential direction for the next season could go in terms of its story. Based on how this season ended, Rodan will certainly play a major part. I think Isabel and Kentaro are most likely going to use Rodan as a means to open a rift into Access Monday. I also think that we'll get the return of Hiroshi next season as they head into Access Monday for whatever reason, and I could see him telling Kentaro and Kate not to save him or something along those lines, or maybe he already met them in Access Monday. So many questions with that. That will probably be one of the focal points of the season. It will probably have themes about letting go, not changing the past, or something along those lines. I also feel like the next season probably has to lead right into the events of Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I imagine we probably get some sort of cameos from some of the Titans for that movie, or perhaps even some of the human characters. Perhaps we could see a returning Alan Jonah confronting Shaw at some point. Maybe we will find out he's been working with Isabel behind the scenes this whole time. I think that would be an interesting reveal. But there's also the Lee Shaw spin-off series, which will be releasing next, and I think that might play a part into the next season of Monarch somehow. Maybe Rodan will appear in it, because based on the ending, it seemed that Shaw recognized Rodan and that he had seen it before. There's also the factor of both Godzilla and Kong. I can't imagine them not making some sort of appearance. It's just a matter of how major a role they will play. I'm hoping we can have a bit of a time jump to the events of King of the Monsters already. The 5-year gap between that film and Godzilla vs. Kong has a lot of potential worth exploring. Plus, you wouldn't have to worry so much about Godzilla being hidden from the world so much. There's a lot of potential directions they can go in, and I can't wait to see how they are explored in a season 3, the spin-off show, and of course future movies. Next up, we got the release of Godzilla Kong Supernova, and I'm pretty hyped for that film. So with that being said, this is where our Monarch Season 2 reviews come to an end. Well, mostly. I'll post a complete season review with all the episode reviews compiled into one video like I did for Season 1. I also want to rewatch the season from start to finish, and then I can do my ranking for each episode. So look forward to that video when it drops at some point. But anyways, I had a lot of fun making these videos, talking about Season 2 this year. I am a little bummed that it's over. Now I have to kind of like wait a little bit for the next thing Monsterverse related, but I did have a really good time talking about it. Anyways, what did you all think of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2? Do you think it's better or worse than Season 1? What would you like to see in Season 3 or the upcoming Lee Shaw spin-off show? What sort of theories do you have going forward? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more Monsterverse content. And as always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out, everyone. All right, so there you go. That was Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2. I have gone ahead and rewatched the season, so this is coming out a few weeks after I posted my complete, or is it last week I posted this episode 10 review or whatever? I don't know, it's been a crazy like couple of months since Monarch Season 2 had dropped, and now I've had the chance to let it settle it a little bit, and then I went ahead and rewatched it, and overall I still enjoyed the season. I do think it is a little better than Season 1. Upon rewatching it, you'll do see a few, kind of like things that don't hold up quite as well on the rewatch, but I still think overall this is a pretty strong entry within the Monsterverse, and there's some good stuff and huge potential of where they could go from here. So I went ahead and wrote down, since I'm recording this while I'm out and about, my episode rankings. So I'll go from 10, last place to first place, basically. So in last place, in terms of ranking the episodes, in 10th place, I will put episode 3. That's where they had the whole cheating affair thing. In 9th place, I'll put episode 2. In 8th place, I'll put episode 1. In 7th place, I'll put episode 4. In 6th place, episode 5. And 5th place, episode 6. And then 4th place, episode 9. 3rd place, episode 8. 2nd place, episode 7. And then at number 1, in terms of my episode rankings, I will put episode 10, which I still think is the best episode of the season and probably the best overall episode in the entirety of both seasons. I just thought it was a really fantastic way to end the show. Monarch really does a good job when it comes to nailing their finale. So yeah, overall, really good season. A few things, there's a few bit of bits of upon rewatching bits of dialogue where they talk about different characters. So Yurden So, head of Apex, blah 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 blah, that kind of takes me out of it a little bit. I'm like, yeah, we're smart enough, we can kind of figure this stuff out. It just feels like kind of repeating, the audience doesn't really get it, so they have to kind of emphasize it, not as if they're talking naturally to one another, as if they're speaking to an audience in some way. There's a few instances of that in the season that can kind of take you out of it a little bit. I didn't like the affair stuff this season. I feel like we've gone a little bit excessive with that. Now, upon following along with the show as it went about, I kind of got over it, and even rewatching it, I knew it was coming. But the first time I saw that happen, I'm like, oh, come on, do we really need another cheating storyline? But the good news is, after this season, I think we're pretty good on that in terms of the whole cheating aspects between these different characters, because who else is there left to cheat on at this point? But then again, it is Monarch Legacy of Monsters. I'm sure they'll find some way to kind of throw it back in there in Season 3, which at this point of me recording this has still yet to be announced. I hope it gets announced soon. Next up, we got, of course, Godzilla Kong Supernova, and we, of course, have the Lee Shaw spinoff show, which I think is to be called Red Monarch. So I am very much looking forward to when those things drop. And then, of course, the season ended with Kurt Russell's Lee Shaw running into Rodan and saying, "I'll see you soon." What does he mean by that? Is this the same Rodan from King of the Monsters? Is this a different one? Is this him kind of referencing Rodan in the Red Monarch series? I don't know. There's a lot of different potential possibilities of where they can go with season 3 if, it inevitably gets announced, which I think it will. I think Monarch season 2 was better than season 1, and I think it's gained a little bit more of an audience. And I really like the emotional stuff this season. So that's why my favorite episodes are 10 and 7. I think the second half is definitely stronger than the first half of it. You could definitely feel some kind of pacing things in the first half where it kind of drags a little bit in certain instances, and some things do bring it down. That's where we got the affair stuff in episode 3. But as the show progressed, I think it did get stronger overall, especially at the 10th episode. We got a lot of monster action in there. There's a nice emotional payoff with Kate and Titan X, and I also like Kong's characterization quite a bit in there, and the possibilities of where they could go for future episodes. I genuinely did jump out of my seat when Rodan showed up for the first time. I mean, I wish I could have recorded my reaction. Like, yes, Rodan! I was like, oh, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? And then when I saw Rodan, I was just a big happy, camper just kind of seeing there. Like, yeah, there's my boy. Or is it a female Rodan? Maybe it's a mate or something. I don't exactly know, but Rodan is back. And that's such a relief because Rodan was the one who kind of, I feel like, didn't get as much to do within the Monsterverse. I mean, Ghidorah, big villain of the movie, and then he's kind of brought back in GVK as like the skull that controls Mechagodzilla, and then his kind of genetic memories of sorts take over it, and it's as if Ghidorah's spirit is taking over Mechagodzilla, which is a cool, crazy concept. So I like that. That was pretty cool. And then now we have, of course, Rodan back, and I'm curious to see what direction to go in with Rodan's character in the inevitable season 3 or potentially Red Monarch, or maybe they'll just end it all here, which I don't think they are. I think maybe they're waiting a little bit to announce it. They're going to get things in order and make all the deals and everything, but it's clearly setting itself up for another season and all that too. We'll probably explore Access Monday. We'll probably do a few other interesting things. I'm sure Hiroshi will come back, at least a version of him, when they inevitably head back to Access Monday. I am hoping that after this season we'll be right in the mix of like King of the Monsters. That's probably where I assume the season will end up, like during the events of that, like Ghidorah, and then we'll see the destruction of Skull Island leading to Godzilla versus Kong, because you're kind of trapped a little bit with what you can do, because Godzilla's supposed to have been hidden from the world during that 5-year period. And after like King of the Monsters and during that stuff, you can showcase him a little bit more, because nothing in GVK says, hey, Godzilla wasn't doing anything between this, couple of year gap or whatever. So a lot of interesting possibilities, and I am excited to see which direction they go in. So overall, Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 was a really good season, and I am excited to see what they do next within the future of the Monsterverse. So we're going to be going cold turkey on Monsterverse stuff, it seems, until a trailer comes out. I did cover the Skull Island comic book, which I think is kind of done. I don't know what they're doing with that one. Maybe we'll get a follow-up to it. I kind of hope so, because it feels like that storyline isn't fully complete. Now, I did order a Monarch comic book that's supposed to be here maybe next month or like July or something like that, but it's kind of like some of the missing storylines during the season or whatever. So I will definitely be covering that on the channel. So that's probably the next Monsterverse thing I'll be covering, unless something in regards to like the Monarch is announced for season 3, or we get a Supernova trailer or something. So we're definitely gonna be talking some more Monsterverse stuff in the coming months. Maybe they'll do like a live stream just discussing on my channel of season 2 overall with some friends on there or something like that. So only time will tell. But anyways, what did you think overall of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2? Did you think it was better than the first season? Did you think it was worse? What are some aspects that you liked? What are some aspects that you disliked? Is there any bit of stuff that you wish you could have seen? If I had one thing, it was during the events of episode 9, I thought Godzilla was finally going to go out to like Skull Island. I kind of wanted him to show up on the island at least just once. Maybe we could have got a Godzilla and Kong stare down, but they, didn't want to play with things a little bit too much. And, with Godzilla's characterization there being more in line with his King of the Monsters stuff, it makes sense why he did what he did, and it's more respectable. But at the same time, I wanted to see him on Skull Island. We never got to see him on Skull Island, and that's always kind of been a bummer for me. I wanted to see that at some point, but that's probably just not going to be the case. That was the one opportunity we could have had it, but I guess not. So Yeah, and I also hope we get some like human characters from some of the other MonsterVerse films thrown into Monarch Legacy of Monsters. The only one we got so far really is John Goodman's, like Bill Randa. Like he's the only actor from the movies to appear in the show, and it was only really for the first episode. So I want to see some others appear in this thing. I feel like with the Red Monarch spinoff, you definitely could bring in a James Conrad or something along the lines of that for that Red Monarch spinoff, because the timeline will be right. It's been almost 10 years since the events of Kong Skull Island. It'll be 10 years like forward within the MonsterVerse as a whole, and Tom Hiddleston's like kind of aged within that, so it feels like the perfect opportunity to have it, and I really hope that's the case. We get something and Tom Hiddleston comes back to the MonsterVerse for that Lee Shaw spinoff. I think that would be something interesting worth exploring within the MonsterVerse as a whole. You got to bring somebody back. I think it'll probably be him would be the most likely candidate if I were to be a guessing man, but only time will tell. Or maybe it's going to be a Houston Brooks or something like that, considering he's a character that shows up in King of the Monsters. So, or like a young Alan Jonah or something. Those are some things I want to see explored in future MonsterVerse stuff. Maybe we'll find out with Isabel Simmons more ties with her organization. Maybe she's funding like Alan Jonah and the the eco-terrorists. I forget the name of them that they call them in the Kong Survivor Instinct game, which I did play that game. It was all right overall. The voice acting wasn't anything all that special, but I played through the whole thing. Wasn't too terrible. So yeah, but anyways, I've been rambling on long enough. I'm sure you're all kind of tired. I'm just getting back from a long trip or whatever, so I'm just kind of in recovery like state. So look forward to more videos on the channel. Let me know your thought of this season in the comment section down below, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace out, everyone.